Morning, everybody. I would like to call this meeting of Development and Property on Tuesday, September 12th to order at 9:30 a.m. As we gather this morning, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Has roll call been taken, Evelyn?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and we have quorum.
Thank you very much. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, then we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes of the previous meetings held on August the 15th and August 29th, 2023. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Laurentian Valley, seconded by Councillor from Township of McNabb-Braeside. Any additions, corrections, or omissions?
Sorry, McNabb-Braeside cannot move or second this one. They were not at one of the meetings.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Councillor from Town of Petawawa. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We have no delegations at this time, so we'll move on to the development and property reports, and we'll start with Director Davis for the department report.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Only one item in the DNP report today on page 2. I'll read the recommendation, Chair, that the October 2023 meeting of the Development and Property Committee be held in the town of Deep River.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And so can I get a mover and a seconder, please, for the recommendation? Moved by the warden, seconded by Councillor from Town of Arnprior. Comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So we'll move on to the Economic Development Division report. And Ms. Markwood, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. First up on the Economic Development Report is just an update on our Economic Development Strategic Planning exercise. So as previously mentioned, we are going to be partnering with the Renfrew County Community Futures Development Corporation to do our strategic planning because they are also due for their strategic plan. And when we were discussing this in terms of a lot of the research and stakeholder meetings and validation point, we're going to be speaking to the same businesses, same community, same elected. And so we're partnering to undertake this exercise together, which is providing us each with a bit of cost savings. We actually met with the consultants, McSweeney and Associates, last week in Ottawa just to go over kind of the schedule and the planning. And so I've outlined the main components that will be part of this strategic planning exercise. So we will be beginning with a survey that goes out to all businesses as well as the elected municipal partners, CFDC clients, and that will just to determine current needs and priorities and just kind of get the general lay of the land. We'll also be conducting one-on-one interviews with community stakeholders as well as members of committee and council and the business community. We'll be doing some facilitated workshop sessions. Originally, we were going to be doing this as an economic development summit, but when we were speaking with the consultants and working out that work plan, we're actually going to be focusing on focus groups. So envision like 1 or 2 days in one venue, and we'll be having sessions for the agricultural sector, for the forestry sector, for the tourism sector, business community, and all that kind of stuff. And that will be to help validate research findings, identify some of those strategic pillars and priority actions. Then we'll kind of split off into our own separate corners, and there will be some facilitated sessions for the Renfrew County Community Futures Development Corporation and their board of directors, as well as for us at the county with Development and Property Committee. And then we'll be working on those 2 individual plans moving forward with final presentation to Development and Property Committee in February. And so the first point will be that survey that will be coming out to everybody's inboxes in the next couple of weeks. Number 2 on the report is the 2023 Excellence in Agriculture Awards. So you'll see correspondence attached as Appendix ED1 from the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs that they've launched their Excellence in Agriculture Awards. And these are an opportunity to recognize and showcase the efforts in the agricultural and food industry. Applications will be received until close this week on September 14th. Number 3 is increasing the dead stock capacity initiative. So again, attached as Appendix ED2 is a joint letter from the governments of Canada and Ontario about the investment of $1.5 million over 2 years to help improve the removal, handling, and disposal of dead stock. So this is an annual program, so good to see that that's been reopened. It does open, up September 21st and remains open until February 1st of 2024. Number 4 is Taste of the Valley. So we had our second Taste of the Valley in Calabogie this past Saturday. We actually ended up with just over 70 vendors in total by the time we were all done, and had close to 900 visitors attend the event. So it was a great turnout for the first time in that community. And we would just like to give kudos to the Township of Greater Madawaska and their local Lions Club and all of their community members and volunteers who came out to help us put on a really great event. We had, golf carts providing door-to-door service for seniors, from parking lots to the event venue, and in speaking with all the vendors, they really had a great day in that first time in Calabogie. So thank you again to Calabogie community for helping us out that day. And that is it for my ECDEV report.
Thank you, Ms. Marquardt. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the Economic Development Strategic Planning. Comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll go to item number 2, which is the 2023 Excellence in Agriculture Awards. Item number 3 is the Increasing Dead Stock Capacity Initiative. Comments, questions? And item number 4 is the Taste of the Valley, and again, sounds like a very successful event in Calabogie, and I like the idea of golf cart transportation. Yes, Councillor from Greater Madawaska.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate, it was a great event. Thank you for Ottawa Valley Tourism for assisting with it all, and our community all came together. Donation of the golf carts was from the golf course of Calabogie Highlands, and the Lions Club were all there. They got there at 7 in the morning to make sure that the parking was all set up. It was just a great community event, and we were very surprised with the numbers, the fact that it ran consecutively with the Renfrew Fair was going on at the same time. So it really shows that we drew a lot of people to our community, and it was a great representation. So I want to thank everybody involved.
And the weather was also very favorable. Okay, so then we'll go to the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association report, and again, back to Ms. Marquardt.
Thank you, Chair. First up on the report is a Tourism and Hospitality Employer Pulse survey. So this is a survey that's conducted by Tourism SkillsNet Ontario, and they do this a couple times a year just to gather data and insights to better understand key challenges and issues pertaining to the tourism industry. So that survey remains open until September 29th, and we're distributing that to our tourism community here in the Ottawa Valley. Number 2 is member and community outreach. So staff were out on the road in Arnprior and Renfrew in August, meeting with a number of new and long-standing tourism members. And these outreach meetings are an opportunity to kind of just highlight some of the programming and business opportunities and support services offered by the OVTA, as well as to help get a better understanding of what's going on with that local business and get them on board and how we can help further support them. So it was a pretty jam-packed day, if you see from the list of all the businesses that everybody went to. But it was a great day, and the operators were really happy to see the staff out and about and at their businesses. And I just have a little note in the report that, anecdotally, operators have seen a steady summer. It has been a little bit quieter in some areas because we have been seeing the outflux of people leaving the province and leaving the country this year because of the pandemic being further behind us and people having more confidence this year to travel internationally. So that we have seen that effect a little bit throughout the Ottawa Valley. But, other than that, residents have been doing a really good job of, visiting local businesses and supporting continuing to support our local community. And so that's really great to see. Number 3 is a fall ATV photo video shoot. So we are working with Destination Ontario and the Renfrew County ATV Club to support and highlight a women's only ATV ride and photo shoot. And so this is the first time we're going to be doing this. We're working with local operator Mainville ATV and Outdoors, who are pretty big local power sports influencers. And so Cassandra, who is half of the team, will be out gathering content through photo and videography with us, and we'll be highlighting that throughout Destination Ontario, Renfrew County ATV, and the OVTA and Ontario's Highlands social and marketing channels going forward. And the purpose of this is really just to showcase, empowerment for women out on the trails, potentially maybe leaving the boys behind, and having a great day of camaraderie with the women out on the trails. Number 4 is our travel trade familiarization tour. Familiarization tours, through our partnership with the Ontario's Highlands Tourism Organization, which is dedicated to promoting and attracting international visitors to the Ottawa Valley and Ontario's Highlands. We host a number of FAM tours for tour operators throughout the year, and so we've got one that just took place last week with Salut Canada, and so they are the Francophone tourism marketing body, and they're the ones that are highlighting our Route Champlain Francophone tour right now, and so we hosted them, who are gathering more photos and content about the region. And then we have a German tour operator coming called Fascination, and they will be here on October 3rd to 5th, and so we'll be hosting them for a few days then. And that concludes my OVTA report.
Thank you, Ms. Marquardt. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the Tourism and Hospitality Employer Pulse Survey. Comments, questions? Seeing none, item number 2 is the Member and Community Outreach. Comments? I just had one question. I know that the Parachute Ottawa Club is very, very popular in Arnprior. I'm just wondering if you had a chance to put on a parachute and jump out of the plane when you were there.
I did not, and I don't know if I could, to be honest.
And the only other question I had was the Montu in Arnprior. What exactly is that?
Sorry, Chair, it's a bicycle repair.
Thank you. Information item number 3 is the Fall All-Terrain Vehicle ATV Photo Video Shoot. Comments? I see none. And item number 4 is the Travel Trade Familiarization Tours. And I'm seeing no comments or questions for that either, so we will move to Enterprise Renfrew County Report, and again, back to Ms. Marquardt.
Thank you, Chair. Number 1 on the report is the fall intake session for Starter Company Plus. We've got a really strong contingent starting with us for this fall session. You'll see from the report that we had 67 people registered for the information session, with 44 attending, 32 requests for applications, and 23 of which were approved, and training began last week. Number 2 is the summer company wrap-up report. So we did have a wrap-up event take place in Petawawa on August 18th, and the youth have now finished up their summer businesses officially and have been awarded their final grant contribution. And just as a reminder, those great and innovative youth who had their businesses running were Grace Ding from Master Boutique and Arden Miller with Arden Miller Studios out of Deep River, Daniel Pomery of 3D Direction out of Laurentian Hills, Logan Stewart with Viking Metalworks from Bonnechere Valley, and Amber Gilchrist with Lavender Seed Pottery out of Laurentian Valley. Number 3 is Bridges to Better Business, Small Business Week. So Enterprise Renfrew County has got a great suite of workshops and activities happening during Small Business Week, October 16th to the 19th, with some content creation and social media training happening, as well as storytelling and how to facilitate media interviews and that type of thing for the business community. So they are a combination of in-person and virtual events taking place. Throughout the county, in McNabb-Braeside Township, in Pembroke, and then a couple of virtual options also. We just want to acknowledge the support of the City of Pembroke, the towns of Petawawa, Arnprior, townships of Laurentian Valley, McNabb-Braeside, and Greater Madawaska, as well as FedDev Ontario for their support and assistance with getting this awesome week of programming for entrepreneurs out. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Marquardt. So once again, going back to information item number 1, the Starter Company Plus fall intake. Yes, Councillor from Laurentian Valley.
Thank you, Chair. The numbers seem pretty high, and that's great. Is that a typical response when you offer this?
Typically, yes. The numbers always start off really high with the registration, with the information session. The information session is really the opportunity for entrepreneurs to kind of get a real understanding of what the program is, and it's at that time that they typically make the decision of like, okay, this is the right time for me, or this is not the right time for me, or I'm interested, I'm not interested. So we typically see a higher number attend that initial information session, and then the numbers typically kind of drop off a little bit, but anywhere between 20 to 30 is typically where we're at in terms of the approved, and then we do see some that will fall off throughout that program. But those are around the typical numbers, which is an increase since the pandemic.
So my follow-up question then is, for those who do participate and take the course, is it a great number, like 20%, 25% that don't follow through with the business?
I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, so I can report that back to you. But in terms of the grants that are awarded, we are limited in the number of grants that we can supply on that, as well as there are some businesses that do undertake the program without applying for the financial aspect of it. So they just want to participate in the actual training and learning, but don't actually want to apply for the financial support of that. So it does vary from year to year.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Seeing none, information item number 2 is the summer company wrap-up. Yes, Councillor from town of Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I'd just like to say thank you for bringing the summer company wrap-up to the town of Petawawa and our container market. It's a fabulous program. There were some awesome young entrepreneurs there, and it was great to be able to give them an opportunity to showcase their wares and perhaps make some sales. So thanks again. It was a great program, and it was good to see the youth doing so well in Renfrew County.
Yes, Warden.
Yes, if I can just echo our friend's comments, it was a beautiful day, and most of us stayed long past the time we thought we would, just because it was so interesting. And your container pop-up market is just a great model, and as I mentioned to you that day, I've taken pictures of and sent it out through Roma and AMO to other people that are have asked questions about it, and if anybody's any information. And the students and businesses that were there, the entrepreneurs really demonstrated, a dedication to their craft, and then also to their business. Very knowledgeable, quite engaging. Always learn a lot, and I'm a really strong supporter of this program. And anybody that gets the opportunity in the future, or in the past, but in the future should definitely go, because it's so exciting and energizing. And Petawawa was the perfect host, so thank you to your community for hosting it. It was just a really well-organized, crisp event at the right spot with the right people, so thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Markwood, you had a comment.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I just, wanted to echo also, it was great to have that partnership with the town of Petawawa, and I think the container market is an actual perfect opportunity to help showcase some of the youth during the youth market. So thanks again to the town of Petawawa for their partnership.
And I would agree that having the entrepreneurs have that opportunity to showcase their programs and their business ventures was really a great idea. And is that the first time it was done with that sort of a setup, that they had that chance, or is this something that you're planning to continue?
No, this was the first time we've done that actually in partnership. So I think it's something we'll definitely want to consider in future years, because it was, like you said, it was a very good opportunity for the youth.
It certainly was. And again, great day for it as well. Any other comments? Seeing none, then we'll move to item number 3, which is the Bridges to Better Business in the Small Business Week. And seeing no other comments or questions, then we'll move on to the forestry report. And Ms. Rose, please.
Thank you, Chair. On page 16 of your report, some information items for you. The first one is about invasive plants. So you have heard me talk a lot about invasive bugs and diseases that affect trees, but I haven't really mentioned the invasive plant component that is affecting the county forest before. So this is just an information item to let you know that we do have an ongoing effort to control those when we discover them in our Renfrew County Forest tracts. The ones that we know about right now are wild parsnip, which usually creeps in from roadways, garlic mustard, which in maybe both cases actually would come from ATV or recreation just in the middle of the woods on a trail, one of which I've been pulling by hand for about 4 years now, so hopefully that will be under control soon. And then some locust that our new forest technician, Jake, has been doing a great job of controlling with brush saw. So these will require annual monitoring, and they tend to seed back in and resprout, so we'll have to keep an eye on them through the years. Just to highlight that a lot of this comes from people dumping waste, garden waste in the woods, or just being transported with tires, pets, and hiking boots. So that's how they get around. And if we don't do something about them, then they will definitely impact the regeneration of the forest, different species at risk values, and generally make the forest less usable for recreationalists and staff. Item number 2 is just information item about trespass issues on the Renfrew County Forest. We've definitely been seeing an increase in the number of offenses since more people tend to be out in the forest in the last 3 years. Most often is dumping, and that's not anything new. Usually it was small scale, garden waste or like a bag of garbage here and there, but there's been a few instances of very large quantities of garbage. A couple fires that were intentionally set, camping, and one of the more common ones is encroachment from adjacent landowners, so creeping over the property line, storing old vehicles, building structures, that kind of thing. So we do have 53 tracks and 2 staff, so it is a lot of work to keep an eye on all of them at all times, so these things can go unseen for some time. We do thankfully get some tips from time to time, and we investigate all of the instances. When we can find evidence, particularly with the dumped garbage, so you can imagine what that looks like, we do report that to the OPP, and most of those have gone positively resolved by the perpetrators cleaning up the garbage when approached by the OPP. We do have a bylaw that speaks to all these activities that are prohibited in the Renfrew County Forest, but it's not been updated since 2009, so I just wanted to highlight that we are reviewing that, including comparing fines that exist for other county and community forests, and seeing where we are with that. So there's a big cost to cleaning up that stuff, clearly, so we want to make sure that that we are covering that off as best we can. Item number 3 is a good news story. You know, lots of retirements happening in the forest sector and beyond, and there is a new general manager that will be starting at the Algonquin Forestry Authority on October 2nd, Tracy Bradley, who's a registered professional forester, and I had the pleasure of graduating with her from University of New Brunswick, so I am sure that the AFA will be in good hands when she takes over. Number 4 is just an update about the Shawwoods Outdoor Education Center board meeting. Chair Brose and I attended the meeting, and they're always, as always, moving and shaking. Lots of public use during the summer. A new parking lot has been put to good use because it's been so busy there. And they've also decided to expand the availability of teacher days this coming year to increase flexibility and hopefully get even more kids out this year. Number 5 is just a general update about operations on the Renfrew County Forest. We're still going. We still have an active harvest at Centennial Lake and one more to go at Round Lake Tract, which hopefully will start soon. And our revenue to date invoiced is $259,000 approximately. We're currently in preparation mode, almost ready to advertise our harvest tenders for 2024, which should go out for advertisement in October. And we do expect that we will surpass $350,000 in revenue by this year's end, and that's as a result of some of the operations from last year being carried forward to this year. So it will definitely be exceeding our expectations this year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Going back to information item number 1, the invasive plant control. Discussion. Item number 2 is the trespass issues on Renfrew County Forest. I'll start with the warden.
I'm just wondering if, this is a rather quaint idea, but I'm wondering if it's possible to start up sort of like a forest rangers program. It's similar to the Adopt a Road program that we have on in the operations side, where we might have 2 or 3 either retired foresters or forestry workers who are interested in just going through taking a walk through periodically some of our tracks and then just sending an email to you or to Mr. Davis or Mr. Kelly, never the warden, just what they find. So some kind of, if we can, some kind of a reasonably regular thing that, that we can use volunteers for. They won't have any powers, like beyond the powers of observation, but it might be something to keep them interested and active and give you some assistance.
Go ahead, Ms. Rose.
Through you, Chair. Luckily, we do have a few of those keen folks already doing that informally, one of whom used to manage the county forests when M&R was responsible for them. And so he sends me hot tips every now and then, and we're very lucky with our agreement with the Borka Biking Club. They do a great job of cleaning up regularly, but obviously many more of those relationships would be welcome. So that's a good idea. Thank you.
And Councillor from Town of Arnprior, please.
Thank you, Chair. Lacey, in the report it says you're going to do a new bylaw. Renfrew County has a bylaw enforcement officer. Why couldn't he or she enforce your bylaw rather than call the OPP? Thanks.
Director Davis.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the councillor. So we do indeed have a bylaw officer, and I'm not going to turn around and look at the bylaw officer. Mr. Raditz is our bylaw enforcement officer when needed. And what Lacey's mentioning in her report is we do have an existing bylaw for our county forests, dealing with like trespass, littering, things like that. What Lacey's mentioning in the report is updating those fines. When we created that bylaw, I think back in 2009, the fees were relatively small compared to today's standard. So we're looking at the process of updating those fees to a higher level. Thank you, Chair. And staff capacity. Thank you, CEO. Staff capacity to enforce these bylaws. Thank you.
Follow up.
Thank you, Chair. The supplementals, if our bylaw enforcement officer does the ticketing, the money comes back to the county, not the province, correct?
That is correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Revenue stream.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, then item number 3 is the new general manager at Algonquin Forestry Authority. Discussion. Item number 4 is the Shaw Woods Outdoor Education Center board meeting. Again, a good news story that the teacher days have become very, very popular, and as well as the visits to Shaw Woods. So they're actually looking at, as Lacey said, adding more days to provide more flexibility and opportunity for the schools, and in particular the children. Any other comments? Seeing none, item number 5 is the operations on Renfrew County Forest. And I'm seeing no other comments, so we will then move to Mr. Howarth and the Real Estate Division report. Oh, sorry, Mr. Raditz, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. The real estate report can be found on page 19, and the first information item is the attached appendix that's identifying the current status of some of our projects. And of course, as you can see, we have a few projects happening there at Renfrew County Place. The one current project being the paramedic shelter is about 60% complete. And in the upcoming weeks, there'll be a couple more projects starting, being the roof and the HVAC unit installation at RCP. So lots happening at the Renfrew County Place. If I can move on to item number 2, and that's pertaining to the new build, Lee Street new build, and that's progressing relatively well. We invite you to visit the Zen City webpage, and there's some updated photos on that website. So currently, the second floor has been installed, the framing, and in the next 2 weeks, we'll have the third floor, and roof trusses should be completed. So they're pretty much on schedule, and the weather has been somewhat favorable, so that's helping the project advance. And to date, there has been an authorized change order of $94,000, which changes the value of the contract at $3.2 million. However, the good news is we're still anticipating some cost savings, and that's estimated at $30,000 to $40,000 in cost savings, and we hope to have that information in the next couple of weeks. Item number 3 is just pertaining to the summer student. Again, we had Grant Hurley as a summer student this past summer. He's returned to university, and he was a big help to our maintenance staff, both at RCP and at the cab. And I'd just like to, again, acknowledge Mr. Hurley as a remarkable work ethic and a very conscientious individual. And the maintenance staff, they miss him already. And Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Raditz. And my apologies for skipping over you, so I'll go back to information item number 1, the real estate 2023 capital and capital under threshold projects. The warden, please.
Just a quick question. The flat roof replacement, that's from prior to our build, I'm assuming, in 2005 and 6 when we substantially renovated, or is this part of replacement of that 2004-5 build?
Through you, Chair, thank you for that question. So the existing roof, it's not necessarily being replaced. We're doing another overlay. In our capital 10-year asset management plan, I think that was stated to be replaced in 2027, but we did have some concerns, so we moved the date up to this year and advanced that project.
Thank you.
And Councillor from Town of Armpra. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, then item number 2 is the 1030 Lee Street new build progress report. Discussion? Seeing none, item number 3 is the summer student, and always great news to hear that we have students that have great work ethic. And I'm seeing no other questions or comments, so now we will move on to Mr. Howarth and the Planning Division report, and I believe you were going to start with an introduction.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So it is, before I get into the report, there's only one information item. It is my pleasure to introduce Samruti Joshi. She is at the back. So Sam has joined us in the past couple of weeks as our GIS technician. So she's working closely with Angie Schultz with the GIS. That's mainly mapping based and managing all of our data, working closely with a lot of the local municipalities as well. She's already attended one municipal session, I believe in Eganville, so with Bonachir Valley, working with some of their staff and training them how to use GIS and all of its capabilities and how it can help the services that we provide. And Sam, we call her Sam for short, is also going to be closely working with a lot of planning GIS files. So we have obviously planning is very GIS intensive. So when we're working with municipalities updating zoning bylaw maps or working on official plan projects, Sam is going to be a key critical part of our team moving those projects forward. So thank you, and if everybody can welcome Sam. Thank you, Chair. So moving on to the report, there's just only one information item. At the August session of County Council, there was a question with regards to how do the prime agricultural lands get identified and mapped into our official plan mapping. So much like any planning policy, everything sort of trickles down from the province. So the province, through the provincial policy statement and various guidelines, they say and identify how mapping and what land should be identified and provide those guidelines. And they also provide a lot of the data and information into how we're supposed to do that. So the prime agricultural lands that we have designated in Renfrew County, both whether it's in the county official plan or a local official plan, they are primarily, they start with the lands that are designated or identified as class 1, 2, or 3 soils. And so that's the base, that's where we start. And then the province wants us to be mapping for agricultural systems. So it's not just the land that have those classifications that get designated as your prime agricultural areas, but it's those lands where that predominantly have those 1, 2, and 3, but then also where there's a concentration of farms. So it can include soils of 4, 5, and 6. So those are your lesser quality, but still possible for having agricultural uses, whether it's hay fields or it could be pasture lands. But it also includes pockets that are not even agricultural uses at all. So it could include wetlands, it could be used forested areas, or pockets of residential or clusters of residential development or other institutional or commercial uses. So all those uses could be involved into an agricultural system or designated as prime agricultural land, even if they are not being actively used for agricultural uses. And that main purpose of that is to prevent land use compatibility issues and to stop other uses from being in those areas that may introduce conflicts or not be compatible with that agricultural use. So I'll leave it at that. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howarth. And again, welcome, Sam. I'm sure you'll find enough work to keep yourself very, very busy. So information item number 1, again, is the prime agriculture mapping. Comments, questions? The warden.
Yes. So this will help. I know some of our municipalities have struggled, and I can't remember the number of 3s, a lesser, or if 1 is the lesser. I can't remember how it works anymore. But so whatever the lesser producing agricultural soil, will this allow some of our local municipalities a greater ease in pulling that out of the inventory if it meets all the other criteria for housing or development? Because there's always been that limitation where, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant, we don't seem to get the magic beans. You know, the magic beans along the 401 corridor or 404 where it looks nice and flat, and I seem to remember corn being grown on it, and all of a sudden there's magic houses grow up, and we've never got those magic beans, and our land is somewhat lesser in ability to produce than in the GTHA area. So I'm often curious about the magic beans of planning in the GTHA versus we can't get some of the lesser agricultural land brought out of the inventory into housing stock.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. It is a question that's full of politics for sure. And a lot of it is, again, trickled down from the province, and the province provides the direction for how land is developed. And for sure, the lands in the GTA area along the major transportation corridors, whether it's one of the 4 series highways or along high or mass transit stations, are identified for growth, and the province has said, in these areas, even if they are prime agricultural lands, they're subject to certain tests, but those lands can be developed because they represent a greater need for the population. So whereas up in Renfrew County, the need for, we have lots of land that is not prime agricultural land, and so we don't receive a lot of those exceptions that the province is, or you'll be seeing in the GTA area. So it does come down quite a bit to need, maybe politics. You see some of the discussions going around the Greenbelt these days, so it can be a controversial topic, but at the end of the day, the province is providing those directions and the growth where prime agricultural land should be, and then for those exceptions, or when they should be removed from prime agricultural land, or where there's a greater need for them to be used for whether it's residential or other types of uses, that ultimately would come down from the province.
Thank you, Bruce. And I had a question, because I think this question about agriculture mapping came as a result of the rezoning in, I believe it was Horton Township, where there was a lot that was zoned agriculture, but it was surrounded by other buildings, and the possibility of it being utilized as agriculture was rather slim. With the delegation of some of the authorities to the planning department to speed up some of these applications, is this one that would fall under that category, so that it might lessen the financial burden on those applying for rezoning?
Thank you, Chair. So no, it is not. So this one does require to go through all the processes under the Planning Act. The official plan amendment does require to hold notices, public meetings, and ultimately a bylaw through council. So there is not, this process is not one that has been changed. With regards to why this one in particular, changing the designation from prime agricultural land, there are, again, the guide, I think it was on actually last month's agenda there, or 2 months ago, the province did recently update some of its guidelines for prime agricultural lands, and there are steps that a property owner can take, and there's certain studies that a property owner can undertake if they want to choose to go down that route to justify or show why land should be removed from the prime agricultural lands. So this lot in particular, it was already within an existing cluster of residential uses. It was right in the middle of a whole bunch, so it was not, and it was also a small lot. I think it was only 2 acres. So due to its size, it was already not being in agricultural production, so it was not taking any agricultural lands out of production. And also because it was right in the middle, it was infilling within an existing cluster. It was not going to add or increase any separation distances or introduce any new land use compatibility issues with the surrounding agricultural area. So it met the criteria that the province has established for when can we consider new residential lot within some of these prime agricultural areas. And so the owner of that did have a justification study prepared and followed the guidelines to say that in that particular instance, why it made sense to allow one more residential lot in the prime agricultural area. But it's definitely an exception, and it is generally pretty difficult to create any type of new non-agricultural uses within those prime agricultural areas.
Thank you very much for that explanation. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, then can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the report as a whole? Moved by the warden, seconded by Councillor from Greater Madawaska. All in favor? And that's carried. And under new business, I'm going to turn first to Councillor from Town of Arnprior, and then we'll have one from the Town of Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. On the 6th of September, the Oblates of Mary Immaculate and the Board of Directors of the Galilee Center announced to the board that a decision has been made to close the Galilee Mission Center in Arnprior early 2024. This is a massive piece of property that maybe could be used for county or town or don't know. But there's buildings, there's houses already pre-made. I don't know who the person would be to contact. We just got told that yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And then I'll move to Councillor from Town of Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. I'd just like to bring to the committee an update on the Pembroke and Area Airport, some of the recent developments and ongoing activity that's taking place there. And I do have an ulterior motive for bringing it forward here, and I'll get to that in a minute. Just in the way of some background, though, the Pembroke and Area Airport is operated by 6 partner municipalities: Laurentian Valley, Laurentian Hills, Petawawa, Deep River, Whitewater, and Pembroke. They all have members on the commission, as well as Garrison Petawawa has 1 member, although a non-voting member on that commission. And as everybody's probably aware, they've had a Project Runway campaign operating for quite some time now in order to raise funds to rehabilitate the runway to this important resource in our county, whether it's emergency health care, fighting fires, or many other activities that it provides here in the county. So at the moment, there's a significant opportunity for some government funding, and if they're successful, it will go a long way into completing the runway rehabilitation and the lighting upgrades that are required to maintain this airport's viability, in the long-term future. Now, because it's a government funding process, most of what's been going on there has been in closed session, so there's only so much I can divulge at the moment. And I think most people are aware here that the Airport Commission is coming to the County Council on 27th of September to do a presentation, so there may be more details coming forth at that time. What the reason behind me giving this little report is there's an ask involved here that members or a member from the County Development and Property or from Economic Development meet with the Airport Commission just to sit down and see what their long-term goal is, what the recent activities are in terms of this potential funding, and see what kind of support the county can offer. As with any government funding opportunity and application, it's important that there's support shown from all levels in order for the application to be successful. So it's obvious that the 6 partner municipalities have already pledged support for it. There's support at the provincial level and the federal level. So what they're seeking is some kind of support from the county level. What that is, we're unsure of at the moment, and that's why they'd like a team to come from the county to sit down with them and find out what all the details are and what the present opportunities are in terms of potential funding for the airport. So I do have a little motion to put forward, but if anybody has any questions before I do that, I'll do my best to answer them without divulging any top secret information.
Can I suggest you just bring the motion and then we'll open for discussion?
Sure. Okay, the motion is that the DMP committee recommend to County Council that county staff be approved to work with the Pembroke and Area Airport Commission and their selected consultant to better assist the strategic economic development efforts of the Pembroke and Area Airport Commission and to bring back a report to County Council.
Are you moving that?
I will move that.
Moved by Councillor from Town of Petawawa. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by the Councillor from Laurentian Valley. Discussion. Warden.
So I did have a conversation with their consultant and made some suggestions about possible changes and just let the consultant know that for whatever reasons, we haven't received updates from the Airport Commission, just on progress and things like that, and that's part, and you know, I took some of the responsibility for that because I had some engagement with the past, and I should have forced my way back into the table, but I didn't. So that I think, you know, those things will be addressed with this refresh. And part of our conversations were that I thought the county was not likely to grant any money, but there might be some synergies between our ACDEV and the airport and in Arnprior as well, and treat the two of them as a sector, similar to what we do with forestry and agriculture in terms of offering supports in the sense if there's a conference that, you know, that would be good if they had a presence at, that we were going to, whether we got one of their folks or from each of the two bodies to come to man the booth or provide information, or if they had sector conferences that they were attending, if you know, if it was possible that we could attend as well. So those are the kinds of things I think that we can work together on. And again, you know, we've had a practice of supporting with a letter. I know there's been 2 or 3 letters we sent on behalf whenever they've made application for funding. So I think we can continue those relationships, but I think that's the thrust of what the member is suggesting, is to try and find out if there are any, and it's an overused word, any synergies or any paths we can walk together, and to treat it like a sector and see what we can do to assist them to maintain the sector and build it. You know, I think that's a really good start, and it might free up a better flow of information. So generally, because I know our policy about granting money to outside, and I don't see that being a fruitful conversation right now, because there's so many opportunities to spend money on one-time grants that I think we'd be overwhelmed by it and don't have the resources.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I see none, so I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. And I'm going to go back to Director Davis. He had another item for new business.
Thank you, Chair. And this next topic is due for the fact of the forestry industry in this local area. And I'll pass this off to Ms. Rose to talk about an update on a pulp mill close to our area in Espanola. Lacey, if I could, through you, Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Rose.
Thank you. So yes, I'm not sure if you may have seen the headlines. The Domtar pulp mill in Espanola has announced that it's going into an infinite idled state as of November, which will affect 450 employees in that community. And it will have a trickle-down effect on our communities and beyond. As you may imagine, there's not a lot of print and paper products, you know, hot on the sales anymore. So the pulp mills have slowly been closing, which means more and more pressure on getting rid of the pulpwood. There is not less pulpwood. You cannot harvest saw logs without taking the pulpwood. So all of our mills are in a constant struggle to get rid of that pulpwood material. One less pulp mill means one less destination, more pressure on the other few that do remain, which are all far away. So this is an ongoing issue, but this most recent announcement is, you know, just increases the pressure that they're all facing already. Of course, everyone is hopeful that there will come another use for that low-end material, and maybe biomass will be the answer, but that's not happening fast enough. So I have started querying the local mills to see what the impact will be to them. What I've heard so far is that it's not their main destination for pulpwood, but it will create pressure and probably less availability for the other mills to take the same amount of volume from them. So they are required to sell and utilize that wood. It can't just sit somewhere. So just an update for you on one of the new pressures continuing on the Renfrew County Forest and all of the local mills that work on Crown land around here.
Thank you, Lacey. Are there any other mills in Ontario then that would take that pulpwood?
There are other mills, not many. Like the Trenton one was the main one that people were sending their pulpwood to, and I don't believe that that is still operating anymore. That's the information I'm trying to gather right now, so I can provide more at the next report on what destinations remain and how they're looking for the next year.
Thank you. Is there any other new business? Yes, Councillor from Town of Petawawa.
Not new business, just a comment on the wood we're maybe trying to get rid of. So thanks, Chair, through you. We were recently up at CNL and saw the grand opening of the new science center, and they made a great deal was made of the construction using the mass timber, which was made out of waste product, and I think it was black spruce. But has any thought been given, are there places that would take that waste wood product and make mass timber out of it?
Through you, Chair. So there are currently only a few mass timber producers in Ontario. It is a growing interest. To date, they only are using SPF, so spruce, pine, fir, to build mass timber. It would be amazing if they could use other species like poplar, red maple, white birch. Those are the ones that we have locally a really hard time putting to use. So hopefully there will be some innovation in that area.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, then we will move to our closed meeting to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And regarding the town of Renfrew, can I get a mover and a seconder to go into closed, please? Oh, and I've just been reminded by Director Davis, the other two locations would be the town of Arnprior and Keys Public School in the town of Deep River. Moved by Councillor from town of Arnprior, seconded by Councillor from town of Petawawa. All in favor? That's carried. We are now in closed. Thank you. Thank you very much, and welcome everybody back. And I'm going to turn to Director Davis to read the recommendation, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendation is that the Development and Property Committee recommends to County Council that staff be directed to develop a concept of a modular seniors village at Bonisher Manor at the town of Renfrew and bring back options to committee and council for consideration, and further that staff work with the town of Renfrew staff Chair, and further that staff work with the town of Renfrew staff for this concept. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director Davis. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Greater Madawaska, seconded by Councillor from Town of Arnprior. Comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. So the date of our next meeting will be Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. The location will be at the Town of Deep River Municipal Office. And I'll need a mover and a seconder to adjourn. Moved by Councillor from Greater Madawaska, seconded by Councillor from Laurentian Valley. Comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.